What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Travis. Of course, this is TWA Motorsports, and today we are doing it. I'm doing it. We're taking the roof rack off. I told you guys that I was back and forth on it. I'm gonna take it off. So I've done several videos on these. So I've done them on the 07 Up platform, and in that video I used some little plastic push-in clips and had several questions about that. And then I did it on the Z71 Tahoe, which was this same body style. And I used screws with like the little license plate caps, you know, like the chrome caps that you can get to put over license plate screws to make them kind of decorative. I painted those white. I don't like either one of those methods. So on this one, I'm actually gonna be using screws. Now I have seen the guys that use the factory screws. The problem, guys, is the factory ones are really, really long. And you're risking bottoming out on this if you use the factory screws. So I really don't want to use the factory screws, so I've got some replacements and I will list them in the description down below. But the very first thing we need to do is, I think I'm gonna have to get a ladder or something because this thing is still way too high off the ground to get up there and do this without a ladder. So let's get up top, see what we're gonna need, and get this roof rack off. Now that we've got a ladder up here, we've got several of these to remove. These are T25s. You can see them here. So we'll have one. I'm gonna try to gracefully set this stuff up top here. So you've got one here, one in the middle, two in the back. Now, if you guys remember from my Z71 video, if you have a Z71 rack, it has an additional one because the rack wraps around. It's a little bit bigger, so it has three in the back instead of two. So one thing, guys, I really don't like to do is use an impact. So I've got my impact here, but I don't want to break it loose with the impact. And the reason why is sometimes these things will spin because they're like a riv nut style in the roof. And you'll see once we get it off, man, they're actually kind of loose, which is a little alarming. I'm wondering if this thing walks around, which means I'm gonna have a little more paint correction to do. But you'll watch guys do videos on this and they just run these things in and out with this impact. And guys, I had one start to spin on me a while back when I did the Z71, and that is not something you want to deal with. If it does start to spin, you're either gonna have to pull the headliner and have somebody hold it while you're taking it out, or you're committed to keeping the roof rack on. So let's go around and get all these things out and see if we can lift it out of place. I went through and loosened all of them by hand. So now we can use the impact. Hopefully, anyway. We don't have any issue. None of them seem to spin. I know it's noisy, guys, when I move the camera, but that one seemed like it locked up a little bit. Okay, now I'm gonna see if we can lift this thing off. Now, generally it's nice if you have a couple people, but what I'm thinking is I'll go to the back and try to lift on one of the bows in the center and see if we can get it off here. Not too bad. It's not heavy. Now you can see how annoying this is. Like when I was washing this last, I noticed a ton of stuff kept coming out from around this. Nothing is more annoying than like door jambs and stuff, bleeding water, dirty water after you've washed something. But I'm just gonna take some all-purpose cleaner and we're gonna get this big stuff off. And you see what I'm talking about? You see there's a little bit of movement in that one? That's alarming if you're just hitting it with an impact. This actually looks pretty good. I'm still gonna paint correct this area and I'll show you guys that, but let's go around and wipe all these sections off, and then we will come back and I'm gonna show you what we're gonna put in, but I wanna do something to them first. So we've got the roof rack off, got all this cleaned up, right? We're still gonna have to come back. I'm gonna use my buffer and I'll show you guys that, but I wanted to show you the difference, all right? So this is what I'm gonna list down in the description. This is the new replacement. Look at the difference in size between the two. Your factory ones, I'm just really afraid, guys, you're gonna bottom them out. Some guys reuse them. And I guess if they don't feel like they're gonna bottom out, you can. Let's just test it. The problem is they're not threaded all the way to the top, so you're gonna have a section that doesn't thread in. These are threaded all the way to the top. They have more than enough to get them where they need to go. And as a matter of fact, they're really about the same size of threads. So with that being said, they have a smaller head on them. They just look a little nicer. They still are that, they're a hex head, so they're not a Torx like this. They look like a 6mm maybe, but I'll show you, I'll thread it all the way down by hand, and I'm gonna use some thread lock on it, or some Teflon tape when I put them in, but that probably would look fine for now. There's not much you can do about this around the outside. There's just not, I mean, I have looked for something that's kind of like countersunk that would fit over that and look a little nicer, but there's just not a lot out there. The only good way to do this, guys, take it to a body shop, have them pull those out, fill it and paint it. I'm not doing that. So what I am going to do though, is I'm gonna go get my grinder over there, my bench grinder, and I'm gonna grind this coating off. And I'm gonna put them in a piece of cardboard. I'm gonna spray them with some really good primer. And then I'm going to spray them with the paint that matches this vehicle. And so while those are all drying, and I'll show it to you before I spray them, I'll put them in a piece of cardboard so we can kind of hold it. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. But while we're doing all that, then I'll come back and we'll paint correct these areas while that paint is curing. But let's go, I'm gonna go spend some time with my grinder over there, my bench grinder, and the little brush. I've got a brush on one side, like a wire brush. I'm gonna brush all that coating off so we got a nice smooth surface, kind of roughed up, ready to take some primer, and then we'll put some primer on. This is what we've got. As you can see, they're all shiny. I actually don't think they'd hold up well just putting them in that way anyway. So you're gonna need some self-etching primer. It's what I like to use on stuff like this. This isn't my preferred brand. I generally like to use Marhide. It's just a higher quality product. It's what my painter uses like in certain areas, but we'll use this. It'll be fine for what we're doing. And then guys, I won't show you, but obviously, you know, in the glove box, you'll be able to get the paint coat off yours. I just bought some color match, some cheapy, which I'll list below for this vehicle, but obviously depending on the color of your vehicle, black, I would just spray them black with regular black epoxy paint or something, you know, like Rust-Oleum. If it was white, you know, your whites, your reds, your blues, it's gonna be off. The problem is it's so far up there, I don't know that you'd notice. But I'm gonna go spray these down with a couple coats of primer, let them set, then I'll put some color on them. And then we're gonna move back to the top of the Yukon and see if we can get rid of some of that etching from where that rack was setting. Well, while that's drying, like I said, we're gonna see if we can get some of these stains out. And that's where I think this buffer might come in handy. My wife's going crazy because I have yet to use my new Rupes, but for this, man, there's just no way to get close. And so I'm hoping I'm gonna use some M100 and a correcting pad. I don't know how good this is going to work. I will say that, you know, the Rupes would probably do better, but man, it's a 6-inch pad. And so I'm afraid that we would have issues getting in this area where this little 1-inch pad seems to be about perfect. So we're gonna give it a shot and see what kind of correcting we can get with this. And we may have to switch over to something else. So first pass impressions are, it's okay. It's taking some of it out. You know, the problem, guys, is as this thing rides and vibrates and, you know, as you saw, a couple of those were loose. I don't think we'll be able to get all the imperfections out because it's etched the clear by kind of vibrating and moving around just over the years. If you got these things early, you know, when you first bought them, took them off, I think you'd be doing a lot better. But let's see, let's go over it a couple times and kind of see what we end up with. Well, I know you're probably not able to see it the best, but I did take all the staining off around the outside. But if you catch it in certain light, there you can see like some of the etching right there that's just not going to come out. There you can see it like right here. It's just not, it's so deep, guys, from moving around. It's in the clear. Chances are if we went to the Rupes, we might be able to grab it, but I don't know how thick the clear is on the roof of these. It's exposed to the elements all the time, the sun. So I'm not gonna get real crazy. You're not gonna be able to really see it anyway. This looks way better. So we just need to knock out, you know, that same staining around all of those. And then hopefully by that time, I think in the time it's gonna take me, it isn't gonna take me long, maybe 20 minutes. I won't show you guys any more of this. But I think by the time we get that finished, hopefully our paint will be dry and we can maybe put this thing back together. So check it out. I've got one coat on these after getting them primed. And it's a pretty close match, guys. From just that, I don't know what it is, like the color match, whatever it is. Like I said, I'll list it below. But I also, in the meantime, got all this paint corrected. And like I said, it's not perfect, but without getting in deep in the clear, I don't think that little, you know, my little buffer can do, it's not powerful enough to do that. And honestly, guys, a 1-inch pad does not last. But I'm gonna put another coat on these, let them dry overnight. And then I think, of course, like I said, you'll see it all in the same video, but I'm gonna install these the next morning and hopefully we can make this thing look nice. Here we are the next day with them all dry. And so here's my plan, guys. So I went down a size on, remember I said this is a hex head. So I went down a size and then I put some tape on here in effort to not break the paint when I'm tightening them up. Now, it's probably still gonna break and I can get some touch-up paint and just kind of dab in there. You know, I'm probably being a little too meticulous when it comes to that. But at this point, what we're going to do is I'm gonna wrap the bottom of these with some Teflon tape. I don't know if you guys noticed, but the factory does that as well. You can see that they've put some thread sealant on there. So I'm gonna wrap starting from the bottom and going up. And then we're gonna get up there and see if we can put these in place. Now I did do a few extra, there's a lot here. I did a few extra just in case for some reason like the threads are messed up on one. I didn't try them all before. I just tried one of them, but I figured, well, if one of the threads is messed up, we might as well paint a couple extra that we can switch out to. So let's get these wrapped with this Teflon tape and then we will get up there and see if we can put them in. Let's see what we can do here. Like I said, I'm sure that I'm gonna scratch them, but don't think there's any way to keep from scratching. Seeing we're already to the point. This one was a little snug going in to start with. I don't know if the threads are messed up, but I'm already struggling with the first one. Yeah, we're just gonna have to go to the size we need. There's no way that's gonna work. It's just slipping, see? So let's go get the other size and not worry about scratching them. I can always come back and just dab some touch-up paint in the top of them. This one right here worries me a little bit just based off the fact that it's giving me fits going in. Because if it gets too tight, that insert's gonna wanna spin. And I don't really wanna mess with that. Remember when I took these out, I said the impact can be a pain because it can loosen those inserts and then you've got a mess. I didn't do too bad. It chipped the paint a little bit, but I'm thinking maybe if I just keep it on that instead of switching back and forth, not pulling it in and out, maybe that's the better option. And the paint cleaned up pretty well. Not as good as I would have. I mean, look, nobody's gonna see it, but I think I could do a little better once I think eventually we'll paint correct this whole thing. And I'll use the big buffer and just kind of go around these areas. But, all right, let's get the rest of them in. Well, I am pretty happy with the results there. Now, can you still see a little bit of that insert down below? Absolutely. But guys, it's so far up and out of sight, I don't think it's gonna matter. That's why I probably shouldn't even, I don't know. I mean, even if I put them in painted black, I didn't like the coating on them, so I don't know that they'd hold up. And I don't know how these will hold up. I guess we'll just see. I didn't do too bad scratching my light. I might go back and just kind of dab some in the middle. But let's get it outside and take a look at it where we can step back and get a good view without the rack. Here we are outside so we could step back and take a look. I think it looks better, guys. I know several people wanted me to take it off. Some of them said, no, leave it on. I just think this roof line looks good without it. Just looks so much cleaner in my opinion. Now, in my opinion too, it's gonna look better once it's dropped with the roof rack off. But for now, it still looks better. I think that, like I said, that paint matched really well. Even though this thing's filthy dirty right now, I think the profile looks a little better. I wish there was some way to delete. I think this is XM and OnStar, if I remember right. But at least there's one on each side, so it looks a little more symmetrical. The one thing I hate about is like when you just get an OnStar one without XM, and you've got just one. I don't know, just I'm one of those guys, like put it in the middle and the back like you do on all the cars. Make it look a little nicer, or figure out another way to put it on the window or something on the inside so it isn't on the outside of the vehicle. But all in all, guys, I think it looks better. Tell me what you think in the comments down below. I will tell you that out of the 4 or 5 that I've done, I like this method the best. I like using those shorter screws. I like them. There's not an extra cap to fade because those were plastic on the last one I did and they started to fade. And the other thing is like the plastic push-in clips that I used before. If you ever had to take them out, I feel like you were gonna break them. They didn't paint as well either because they were also plastic. So this is my favorite method. Like I said, guys, I will link everything that I use down in the description down below. But let me know what you think. If you did enjoy this video, guys, if you think it looks better, hit that thumbs up button. If you are not subscribed, go down there, hit the subscribe button. Of course, ring that bell icon that notifies you every time we drop a new video. And stay tuned to see what we do to this thing next.